what would you say to people that are trying to build a customer focused sales process, and kind of the experience you've had of kind of engineering one towards that versus, focusing on yourself and your own internal process?
Yeah, so I think, if I take the Envision experience, Envision has this really powerful brand in design. Like, we love the designer. We spend a huge amount of time going beyond our product to thinking about, like, how do we drive value in the community and elevate this new growing community in like businesses where, design is now a differentiator for them. And so, if I think about that community piece, we do things like Design Leadership Forum, which is a community for design leaders where we've got like 1,000 people around the world that we bring together for like these intimate dinners. And it's about like networking, and it's completely tool agnostic, but it's like, how do we create a platform for people that are going through rapid change in their organization where there's not a playbook for the type of growth that they're experiencing, the number of products they're having to design for, the number of stakeholders that they're having to collaborate with. And so I guess the first piece is like, how as a company do you recognize that you've got to drive value into the community that you serve beyond the products, right? To help just elevate the overall category and create best practice sharing and knowledge. So there's a piece around like just making sure that you're heavily invested in that. And it's really inspiring to work at Envision because like the content that we produce and the investment that we make into helping these individuals like develop these new playbooks and scale their design teams and share their best practice, like that helps, right? I think from a kind of sales process point of view, because the product is so strong and that we started as this self-service business where, 5 million people sign up to Envision and now use it to collaborate design ideas and stakeholders. A lot of the conversation sometimes in the earlier phase would start at a kind of product and feature level. And so one thing that we did to kind of help in that early phase of the process was we developed something called, we call it a value pyramid. Essentially, it's just like a research framework, right? That starts at the company's most strategic goal, breaks down what their strategic objectives are and challenges, and then ways in which we can create value for that. And it's an executive summary slide. It's really just a framework for researching what's this company talking about online that relates to digital and trends impacting their company, and how can we start every single conversation with a customer around those types of topics as part of the agenda, so that we're not being pulled straight into the products and features piece, but more into how what we do impacts real strategic business outcomes. And so that's kind of one thing that's really helped us elevate our conversations beyond the product, which is important and we want to do, but like connects us more to like what are companies actually facing in their organization and how does design play a role in fixing some of those things. That would be one example.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say another is like, how do you then design processes outside of the design persona for us also to create value, right? Like we have more engineers on the Envision platform now than designers, because so much of what's getting created in companies is like this design idea that needs to be socialized across so many different business functions, engineering being one, business stakeholders, legal, compliance, marketing. Like, how do you get as many people involved around the design idea as early in the process so the end outcome is that much better? So for us, it's like, how do we go to different types of personas and have that value-based conversation as well outside of design, so that we can speak to the value of this kind of operating system for all of their kind of digital product, kind of design, etc. And so lots of work around that. And the final thing, we've developed a kind of customer business review framework, which is really a template for ensuring that in our existing customers, we're sitting down at least once a quarter and having a conversation about what's new in their organization, what challenges they're facing as a function, and how we can bring value through the different things that we do. And so I think these types of tools just give our customer teams, more ammunition to spend more time on the customer than they do on us and our features and our products, etc. So
nice, that's great. Hey, one quick question to dive into a bit of detail on your review documents that you have with the customer. You've done so many of these with executives, both at LinkedIn and at Envision. Like as an individual, you have done so many. I know your team has too. Well, can you talk a little bit about what that document looks like, either the length of it or kind of like the summary of what's in it, just so people get a sense for kind of what you're including in that presentation?
Sure. Yeah. I guess, before even getting to the documents, so much of it is about what it is you're trying to achieve as the outcome of the meeting, right? And who needs to be there. So before you even get to the kind of document component, it's like, what stakeholders do I need to have in this conversation to ensure that we truly kind of move the conversation forward and are as connected as possible to the challenges that this business faces. So
right.
the preparation that goes into like defining the stakeholders, selling the value of why bringing those different types of people together in a meeting, like you win and lose in the prep and all of that piece, right?
Nice.
And so
you win and lose in the prep. That's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. So just make sure that like this isn't a tick box exercise, but like a truly strategic tool to figure out like who needs to be there, why do they need to be there, and how do I communicate the value of these different functional leaders coming together to have a conversation around their company. And if you can get that piece right, you know, selling the value of the meeting, getting the right stakeholders, prepping to ensure that like the outcome that you're trying to kind of design for is the one that you reach, like that's a huge part of it. The framework itself, you know, I think orientate it around a clear agenda that's aligned to the outcome, make sure that a lion's share of the meeting is spent on the stakeholders and the individual challenges that they face and how those are barriers to the outcomes that they're trying to achieve as a company. If you can leave every single customer business review having understood like the 3 core challenges that a company's facing and why are those barriers to them like being successful, to be honest, like that's a huge part of it, right? The rest kind of feels downhill. Obviously, the more insight you can bring to those conversations, insights driven from what the industry are doing, perhaps benchmark companies that they look to and see as like really inspiring, whether that's in their industry peer group or outside of it, ensuring that you kind of gathered that insight as part of your prep and that you lead with that, particularly when you've got executives, like key part of making sure those types of engagements are successful.